So my journey began with job applications, something that I'm sure many of you can relate to. It began to feel very draining, tiring, frustrating, and hopeless. I needed a job ASAP, so I was filling out application after application, but nothing seemed to fit what I truly wanted. There was always some kind of sacrifice, whether it was that I seemingly found the perfect job, but it was too far away, too many hours, or too little pay for too much responsibility. I reached a point where job hunting felt a full-time job in itself, and it was just draining me and making me feel even further away from my career goals. So I decided to take a break, just 3 days to clear my mind and reset. And this is what happened. So during that 3-day break, my daughter had asked me to go along to the UK Carnival. She had been before, but she was so young that she didn't actually remember going, so she kind of was springing that on me last minute, and we made the decision to go to the carnival so she could see what it was like. This carnival is also where my mum lives, so we decided we would kind of pack our bags, go to the carnival and visit my mum at the same time. So me and my daughter had some fun at the carnival. She got to see what it was all about. I couldn't resist her charm, so of course she got what she wanted in the end, and she ended up having a nice day. When we went back to my mum's house after going to the carnival, my daughter was reluctant to leave. She wanted to stay with my mum, and there was no way of me getting her the next day because the carnival runs for 2 days. So we basically ended up missing our train. The station had closed, and I was a little bit annoyed because it meant we had to walk really, really far to the next station in order for us to get home because we had already missed that train. But at first, I felt like this strong pull, which I just initially assumed was like a nostalgic feeling. Then I realised it wasn't actually a feeling of nostalgia. It was like this strong pull, like this unfinished business kind of feeling. So it felt a little bit deeper than that. It just felt like I couldn't shake that feeling of unfinished business. I know I used to live there, and I wasn't planning on relocating and moving back to the area, so I knew it wasn't that. Like a gentle nudge that like provoked me. It was this feeling of like revisiting an old chapter in my life that hadn't quite been closed yet. And for me, it very much felt like with that area, I'd done everything I wanted to do, seen everything I wanted to see, lived there. My mum still lived there. There was no reason for me to be feeling like that, but it was definitely this unfinished chapter is the best way to explain it. Anyway, so due to feeling just exhausted from walking all day with my daughter, I just pushed it to the back of my mind, and we were exhausted. We just got home, ordered takeaway, and just conked out and fell asleep. The next day, I woke up in the morning just feeling rested, rejuvenated, and a lot better. This like renewed sense of energy where I was just like, the desperation energy from the job hunting had just washed off, and I felt like way more revitalized. So I am someone that has always believed in the law of attraction, always used it as my point of guidance, but I wasn't practicing what I preached. And suddenly, with now feeling rested and just a whole new different revitalized energy, I was kind of having thoughts of like, well, what would I advise someone else to do? Because often I would give good advice, but I wouldn't take the same advice. I was the queen of telling others you can have anything you want, yet when it came to myself, I was stuck in limitation and lack mindset. I realised that I was handing out advice that I shamefully wasn't even taking myself. I was coaching people, counselling people, doing readings for people, and I always had what seemingly was the perfect advice. They would come back to me with their success stories, and yet I wasn't even sticking to that myself. I was not practicing what I preach. So I decided I was going to come out of this lack mindset of desperation. The energy was just desperate. It was me searching for jobs, and I wanted to do what I would do with anything else, attract what I wanted towards me, as opposed to me desperately searching for it. As the saying goes, I don't chase, I attract, and this jobs hunting thing just shouldn't be any different. So I decided I was going to write my own job description exactly how I want it. So I got into a meditative state and literally just started listing the things that I wanted as though I was creating a job description for myself. Just basically said exactly what I wanted. I wanted 3 days. I wanted a part-time position. The reason I wanted 3 days was because I wanted the other 2 days to focus on Mindset Magic and the brand, which is my passion project. So I knew that 3 days was going to fit. It would be enough for me to focus on work and the brand. And I feel like if I had done 5 days, it would have swallowed up my time with the brand. I wanted to manage my time well, so that's why I went for 3 days. Obviously this would be suitable for you. Whatever you choose is what's going to be suitable for you. I'm just doing what suited me. I also wanted to work with more vulnerable young people and adults, whilst utilizing my counseling and coaching skills. Again, this is just something that was suited to me. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to focus on empowerment, so some kind of helping role where I was providing empowerment and support. I then focused on salary, which is important because instinctually I wanted to go obviously as high as possible. I was tempted to go as high as possible and be like, yeah, I want to be making this amount. But this is what's really important, because my advice here is to do what feels realistic to you. So if you're saying like, I want to be making like 100 grand and working 2 days a week, does that line up with your belief system? Because if it doesn't, you're going to feel resistance, and there's no mistaking in that feeling of resistance. You know when it just doesn't feel like it's flowing, and that can cause you to kind of ruin your whole manifestation. So I would just say, be honest with yourself. Does it feel right? Anywhere that you don't feel like it's flowing, I would encourage you to begin going vague. So try to get as specific as possible, and that should still feel good. That should still be like cultivating feelings and emotions of joy and excitement. And the minute something feels like a block, which is the resistance, that's when you should revisit that part and maybe start going vague there. So you might not go into so much detail. So you might just say something like salary, and if you go to a certain point of 80,000 and it's like, no, that just doesn't feel right, you either can change that or just go vague by saying something like, I'm making an amount that I'm so comfortable with, I'm so happy with the amount I'm making, something like that, where it's not as descriptive. That would be my advice, because like I said, that can ruin your whole manifestation, just those bits. Try to go with the flow when it comes to visualize. So basically you're just asking yourself, like, is it realistic to you? Does it align with your belief system, or are you just throwing it out there because you're asking for what you want and you're like, yeah, I'll throw that in there as well? Just remember, it does have to feel realistic to you. So I then went to write, travel time should be within 40 minutes. I could have said in my area, but personally I wanted a change of scenery, but I still wanted to know the area pretty well. So I didn't want it to be too far off. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to leave my environment when going to work. So another thing I said was flexible. So the job should be flexible. I should be able to work online from home when necessary. That was something that was important to me. I wanted to work with a small team that I could be a part of, with supportive colleagues and managers, and just a team that I actually felt supported by. I wanted the team to be small as well. And I remember just sitting there literally making people up. I was kind of there like a crazy person, just imagining all sorts of different characters coming together in an office-like environment. Again, like, it doesn't have to be an office, it's just something that I imagined. I knew that the job I wanted would sometimes I'd be working in an office environment, and I wanted the colleagues to just be supportive, friendly, like diverse, just, people that you would come into contact with on a regular basis, not like completely office type and ones that you don't feel safe around or feel comfortable around, and you have to be careful what you say. I wanted it to be a very relaxed, friendly environment, and that's just personally what I wanted. So like I said, I was like imagining the characters, imagining laughter, imagining fun whilst we're getting on with work. We're kind of fighting for the same cause. We're all quite passionate about what we do. That kind of thing was what I was beginning to start kind of visualizing, and really getting into the mode of like cultivating those feelings of just laughter and joy and genuine friendships and genuine supportive colleagues and a great management, like a team, just a small team of working together. That's what I was kind of imagining. Those things are obviously unique to you. Again, you don't have to imagine that, but just make it real. Whatever you do, and make it real. Make it as though it's happening, so your mind can truly believe that it is. Another thing I asked for is the job to honour work-life balance and diversity and well-being. I wanted that to be an important part of the role as well, just to make it very real and humanistic, and not just about the job and have you met your targets or things like that. I really wanted to give it that vibe, so I did that as well, and I was thinking about what that would look like. As I began journaling that, I was just writing. I just had a notepad and pen, and I was just writing all the details. I could feel the energy shifting as I was imagining it, and it was becoming really exciting, and I could visualize the work colleagues, the interactions, the laughter, that feeling of waking up and feeling excited for work. Like, that was really important to me as well, because there was no good in getting a well-paid job or a job that suited what I wanted and just feeling horrible every day when I woke up. I've been in jobs in the past where it's like, oh my god, another day, just feeling drained, just feeling like I didn't really want to be there, but I needed the money, so I'm gonna have to work here. I'm still working on it. I'm not perfect, and I'm definitely still working on financial freedom. That's what I'm kind of saying. You have to really like do what feels realistic to you, because I would preferably just want to kind of become self-employed ultimately one day, and I am taking steps towards that, but for now I wanted a job that was just going to reflect a bit more freedom and flexibility, and something that I was happy doing. That was really important to me, so I had to feel the feelings of being excited to wake up and be like, yeah, I'm going to work, I've got this to do, I've got that to do. If it just felt like a job, I was just going to start to feel like a prisoner again, and it was like going against what I really wanted ultimately. It was important to me that on the job I was helping people to break barriers and achieve their goals, just like I wanted to do. So it was like, gonna therefore be this like recycled energy of like empowerment and achieving our goals and breaking free from barriers and limitations and fears and things like that. I would be able to help the people I was working with, and that would also in turn be helpful to me. So I had a vision and a goal and a plan with this. I wasn't just kind of like just a job that makes me happy, and I really thought about what I wanted and what would fit me as an individual and my goals and my dreams. And I also imagined team and the management really supporting that as well. The more I imagined it, the more real it felt. So remember, it's not just about absent-mindedly writing what you want, I want this, I want that, and creating the job role, but it's actually cultivating the feelings of that. So it's like you're living it now and feeling excited about that, in order for your mind to kind of tell you that this is already happening. Everything is already happening now, so you have to create that in your mind as though it is happening now. So don't forget, it's not just about absent-mindedly writing. You really need to feel this, and you really need to get yourself feeling it. And that's why it's important to notice where there's resistance, because that will block you. So wherever you feel like that, just go back a step and try to make that vague. What you're basically doing is you're just you already have it, so you're just lining up with the frequency of that, whatever it is you're desiring. So in this case, it's the job. So you're just lining yourself up with that frequency. Think of it like a radio station, and you need to get to 49.9 FM and you're at 48.7. You just need to line yourself up with that frequency, or in the space of having the thing that you desire, in this case, the job. And it just becomes like muscle memory. I went back to what I had wrote about the job description, and I was literally just reading it on a daily basis, just smiling to myself, just acting as though it was already mine. Every time I'd read through it again, I would just be smiling, just feeling that gratitude. Oh, thank you for bringing me exactly what I wanted. And that just felt good. I would just do that. Actually, it was probably a few times on a daily basis, not just once. I would just go back, I would just read my notes and be like, yeah, like, I'm so grateful. Oh, thank you. You know, just a lot of gratitude was felt. That's what I did after I wrote that. That was my energy. I was in that energy and I was just enjoying that. A while after, I just casually checked my emails as I do, and there was a email saying, it was just in the subject, it was an interview invitation. And the weird thing about this was I had no recollection of applying for this particular job that was offering me the interview invitation. I was literally just like, what's this? I do not remember applying for this job. To this day, I have no recollection of doing that. But when I saw the invitation, I was like, okay, cool. Looked down, because I had interviews before for jobs that I wasn't really too keen on. I'd even been offered a couple of jobs and was just kind of like, no, it just doesn't feel right. I don't want it. I'm taking it out of desperation. So I just thought, let me just see what this job is about. It had a website on the bottom, and it had some sort of link for the job description as well. So I think I looked at the website first and I was like, wow, I definitely do not remember applying for this, but it sounded great. It sounded like exactly the type of thing I wanted. So I was like, okay, I was getting excited now, and I decided, okay, let me look at the job description, see if that matches. Kid you not, like, the job description was almost identical to what I had written in on that notepad days before. Like, it was so similar. I was like, this is the job. There was no doubt. It was like, this is the job, because the job description was just too similar to what I had already written. The hours were similar. The salary was pretty much the same. The mission, in terms of like what they were there for, what they do as a company, like, I didn't even think something could fit so well, because it used basically all of my skills. There was counselling involved, there was coaching involved. I was working with young, vulnerable adults and young children and their families. The travel distance, it takes me about 40 minutes to get back to my mum's area on train. But the most important part, the location was right near my mum's house, that very place where I felt that unfinished business feeling. That it was literally like full circle for me at that moment. It was like, I forgot about feeling like that, and the minute I saw the location, it was like, bam, like it hit me. It was very full circle. It was like, this is my job. This is definitely my job. This was sent to me from the universe. Everything lined up. There's more synchronicities, and there's more things that were like, whoa. I don't even remember in detail. I do still have a lot of the notes and stuff around that I could go into. I don't even know where that notebook is, to be honest, but I would be able to find it. It was just, in every way possible, that job fit what I had asked for in ways that I didn't even think would work. Like, and that's why you should never kind of ask, but how? But where is this going to come from? But how can I have that and that? You just don't know. And in this case, it was one of those situations where it was like, I wouldn't even have it. If I had handpicked a job myself and found something. I couldn't have done a better job, and that's why that you really just, I can't stress enough, have to trust in the process. Your job is to ask for what you desire. The universe's job is to line that up for you. You don't have to think about where or how or what or when. Just trust in the process. And that was so important, because I would never believe that something could fit with me so perfectly. And I'm not even done, because the synchronicities, they just kept on happening. Interview prep, I was asked to make a short presentation, which I'm not gonna lie, I absolutely hate public speaking. I hate interviews. I get really nervous, my mind goes blank. Like, I don't like interviews, and on top of that I was gonna have to do a presentation, which was even more kind of scary. Not different. I was practicing what I preached. I was letting go of fear, I was letting go of control, and I was embracing the journey of facing my fears. And it just felt like how can I now turn this away and not do well, to make sure I secured it. Because it's one thing to manifest the thing that you want and have that come to you, it's another thing for you to make. There's effort that you have to make as well. I can't just rely on the fact that this is a manifestation, so it has to be mine. I wanted to make sure that I secured this, and I really wanted to show up for myself and just do things differently, not allow fear to get the better of me this time. And my excitement just kind of overshadowed. I was just really excited about the fact that, oh my god, like, I've manifested this job, and it felt good and it felt liberating, and at the same time it also felt very fragile. Like, you know, things could go wrong if I didn't play this right. So I was, you know, just putting the effort in and preparing diligently. I was practicing over and over again my presentation. My poor kids, like, they were really patient with me, because I would be like, oh, can I just practice with you again, can I just read this to you again? And, you know, I could tell they were kind of, you know, becoming like, I think my son even said something like, I'm sure it'll be fine, like, just wait till you get there and do it there, and, you know, I think you've done it enough now. And I was just like, I just wanted it to be perfect. Because of this whole process, my excitement was actually overshadowing my nerves, because it was just nice to be back in the driver's seat, to be back in control. Like I said, I was always a believer of the law of attraction. It's just that when life gets on top of you, sometimes you just forget that it doesn't have to be that hard. You're just making it more complicated. You can actually make it a lot easier for yourself if you do trust the process. And so I was just feeling excited, whereas usually I would feel really nervous. I was enjoying it, and that's another thing, like, the journey, that's something I really learned. Enjoy the journey. It's not just about the destination. And I know these are cliche things you hear all the time, but actually, like, having that happen was like, oh yeah, the journey, that's supposed to be the fun part. And it really truly was. I do the presentation alone, and I just read it out, and every time I did it, I kept on, like, visualizing these two ladies smiling back at me, just smiling, just, you know, constantly smiling and just nodding and smiling. And this part was actually kind of fun as well, because when I had received the email about the invitation to the interview, it was just one lady, and it just said one lady will be interviewing me. It said her name, but whilst I was practicing this presentation, I kept seeing two ladies. I kept seeing two, and just imagine them smiling and beaming, kind of visualizing certain points of the interview. And I imagined myself of this presence, and this was just like me visualizing it. It was like energy as opposed to specific faces or things like that. It was just two ladies, beaming energies, smiling at me, and I imagined myself just present and confident and there to, you know, to make an impact and having the best interview, and them engaging with me, and, you know, just all of those things. And that felt good. I imagined, like, leaving a really strong impression on them. I really imagine them engaging with me. I'm just seeing these two women, been through interviews all day, tired, hungry, maybe hearing the same things over and over, and I imagine just me coming in like a breath of fresh air and just being enthusiastic, and that energy sort of rubbing off on them. So, like, them not knowing what hit them until I came in. I even imagined, like, certain parts of the presentation of them just laughing, like just having a little chuckle. And suddenly I was like a woman possessed. I was kind of mad because if you were to be a fly on the wall, you'd be like, what the hell is she doing? But for me, like, I knew what I was doing. I wanted to create exactly what was going to happen in that interview. So these small little details were actually really important. The day of the interview, I was actually so excited at the whole process and the whole journey that I couldn't sleep. I was like tapping my feet together. So I just decided I'd get up early. I made myself a coffee. I even ended up arriving at the interview like an hour and some early, and I had to walk. There was a nearby park, and I decided I was just going to walk, calm my energy, calm my excitement, calm my nerves, and I just kind of walked around through the nature, and I really did feel at peace. The interview, it did actually unfold exactly how I had envisioned it. There were two ladies. In regards to, so I had like a questions first, case studies and things like that, whereas usually I would have felt really nervous. I just felt confident in myself. I was like, yep, yep, got this, yep, got that. There were questions that were like, they weren't difficult, but you had to know what you were kind of talking about, and it wasn't just about selling yourself, which some interviews are about, like, what's your strengths and what do you think you can bring to the company. It was actually about what you would be doing on the job. Like, you had to basically use these case studies and be like, this is what I would do in this scenario and things like that. And then at the end was the presentation. Everything went exactly how I envisioned. I can't stress enough. The parts that I wanted to make the interviewers laugh at, they chuckled. My smile was radiant. I looked at them, they were smiling back at me, like in a joyous kind of way. Like, everything I imagined, the energy was flowing, everything just flowed exactly how I had envisioned it all those times that I was practicing. I was really happy with how the interview went. I was like beaming inside. I couldn't wait to get outside. I wanted to call my mum and let her know how it went. And the last question that the manager asked me, do you part-time or full-time? I said part-time, and this was the thing, because I didn't know the days. I just knew there was a part-time position available, though in my job description, as you know, I had said I wanted 3 days on job, and the 2 days I wanted to just have to work on the brand. And so she asked me full-time or part-time, and before I got to even say part-time, she said to me, if it's part-time, then just to let you know, that will be 3 days. I was literally just like, I must have just looked like an idiot, because I was like, I just was thinking, like, now you're just playing with me, universe. Now you're just playing with me. So I was like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. That's perfect. That's like, whoa. The 3 days as well. Like, this is my job. I didn't have a doubt. Like, when you know, there shouldn't be any doubt. There shouldn't be any, but what if? But because everything is just flowing exactly the way is expected to. There shouldn't be, I have to force this to fit or have to try and make this work. And this was just proof of that. That was the final thing of like, by the way, here's your 3 days. All that changed everything. So I think it was a couple of days later. It was pretty quick. It all happened quite like one after the other. From walking to my mum's, the carnival time, to the job interview, invitation, to this call. But the call came, and it was actually at a weird time. It was later on in the evening, and I had ordered a takeaway. It's difficult for the drivers to find my address, so I just assumed that they were calling. It was a mobile number, so I answered casually, but it wasn't a takeaway, it was the manager from the job. She told me how much they loved my interview. Like, she was, very complimentary. I was very flattered. My heart was racing at the time, so I don't remember exactly what she said word for word, but she was just praising the interview and just being like, we really loved your interview. Then she followed up with something that was quite strange, that unfortunately, when we aren't going to offer you that role, I think those were her words, unfortunately we don't want to offer you that role, or something like that. But I still was kind of, because I knew this job was mine, I didn't really feel like, what's going on? But I was kind of like, huh? I loved the interview so much that she hopes that I will still work with them regardless. But they had, she wanted to put it forward to the directors, a role that they saw for me. So basically what she was saying, that she wanted to create a different role specifically for me. This was a positive thing. She wanted to create this new role and create a contract and bring it to HR. So obviously she felt like, or they felt like they'd seen something in me that I would be suited to whatever they had in mind. So I wasn't just receiving the role I applied for. It was actually something more, and because of the pay being more and things like that, she was going to have to present it to HR and the directors or the leading boards or whatever it was. And she basically said there's no reason why they should say no, and she believes they will say yes, but should they have any sort of anything with that for as to why they do say no, then she still wants to take me on and bring me onto the team for the same role I applied for. So it was a win-win for me. Either I was going to be doing this new role that they created, and within that company it would have been still what I wanted to do, or they would just take me on as what I originally applied for. So for me, I was like, yep, of course. She's like, is that okay? Do you still want the job? I was like, yeah. She's like, either way, just want to let you know we still really want you to work with us, and I'll let you know. So I was just buzzing. I was basically being told that there's a potential role that's going to be tailored to me, given what they saw in me, the positive things that they saw in me, or I was going to have the same role I applied for. So for me, there was no issue. She congratulated me and just basically said, okay, well, congratulations, you got the job. And I was like, I didn't actually feel like, oh my God, I got the job, because like I said, I already lined up with it. It was already mine. It was a feeling of, I know this job is mine. So there wasn't really, I'd say the excitement was happening whilst things were going on. So the invitation for the interview, and then going to the interview and doing the presentation and facing my fear of public speaking and being at that interview, and all of that was exciting. By the time I got the job, it just felt right, if that makes sense. I even called my mum up after and was just like, yeah, so basically I got the job. And she's like, what, you got the job? She's like, you knew that was yours, didn't you? I was like, yeah. My mum's into law of attraction as well, so she was pretty much very, like, you knew that job was yours kind of thing. Yeah, just to let you know that once I got the job, the synchronicities, they really didn't stop. There was just so many small things and bigger things that happened that were just like, I'm just supposed to be here. There was a lot of moments like that, and I won't like bore you with them all, but there were a couple of full circle moments that first happened that did kind of feel like, oh my God, this is crazy. Obviously I asked for was the counselling and coaching and empowering young people or vulnerable people or people who have had, different backgrounds, not so stable backgrounds, or are battling with addiction or things like that. I got to do that, and like I said, I wanted to work with young people, young adults. I am working with people up to the age of 25, their families, so if their families have addictions or things like that, or just having a rough time, looking after people's well-being, empowering them. I also go to a school to do counselling, so everything that I wanted wrapped up in a bundle basically, and my 3 days a week. So I get to still work on this brand and practice what I preach, basically, this Mindset Magic brand. I get to actually live it and do these things and then come back and share the stories with you guys. I've got so many more stories to tell, so many more things I want to let you know about, and I'm in a learning process too, so it's not like I'm coming, and telling you that I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, and like all of you guys look up to me and I've managed this, so you can too. Like, it's constantly conscious, being present, having good habits, a good routine, getting healthy, not just mentally but spiritually, physically, like all these things I'm also doing. So anything that I come and say to you, is me, in real time trying to apply these things. I'm not just saying it to you as like, do as I say but not as I do. I really am truly aiming to be able to feed back to you what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. And I have been coaching and doing my readings and things like that, and I can tell you where you're going wrong. But one thing that I wasn't doing as much was applying it to my own life. So doing this has really made me realize how fortunate I am and how much effort I want to put into this channel and this brand, so you can benefit from it too. I wanted to say, sorry, rant over. I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but the office environment is literally same as I imagined it. Thriving personalities, big personalities, but ones where we're just always considerate of each other, always checking in with each other. I couldn't have asked for better colleagues. Management is so cool, calm. Everyone is just chilled. But really just caring and passionate about what we do, and I really do feel like a part of the team. It's a very small team and we all kind of have the same mission, so again, very blessed to have received what I wanted there. One of my early days experiences of the full circle moment I was talking about, I had to make my way to a different part of town where I would be visiting the offices that dealt with looked after children, and I called one of my colleagues to come and meet me down where I was, which is outside of the building. She was going to come down from inside the building and meet me, and I was waiting for her at that moment, and I suddenly felt so overwhelmed. I realized I have been here before. I literally was like, I've been here before. And the minute I realised why I had been here, I just felt really overwhelmed. It was like a lot of emotions going on at once, mostly happy. Well, I actually felt like an out-of-body experience. I remember seeing an image of myself on that same corner where I was standing, crying. And I think I was trying to hold back tears at the time, and I was looking at my phone, and there was a lot going on emotionally and on my phone. I was just coming out of this really, really toxic relationship. It was very heavy and dark, and I remember feeling like I was just crumbling at that moment. I was in a really, really dark place. I'd say that's probably one of the lowest places I've been in my life, and I was on that very corner, just worn out, emotionally drained. And I think I was going to that place for something to do with my housing. I had to hand something in or do something, but funny enough, it was the same place, the same corner, and I had only realized then, this is where it was. I could see the image of myself in that low, dark place several years before, feeling like there was no hope. I remember just feeling so alone at that point, the several years before. I just remember that feeling, it came back of I was so alone. I wanted to go home and just cry, and this was a home that didn't even feel like home anymore. And yeah, just going through a really horrible time where I just felt very, very lost. And standing on that same corner, physically I was in the same place, but emotionally, mentally, my life's journey I was in a completely different place, and it was just very overwhelming at that point. It's like, now I'm here, I'm on the other side, helping other people in the same building. It was a head F, just to say the least. I realised that I could just imagine myself giving my old version of myself a cuddle and just being like, it's going to be alright. You're going to be back here in several years' time, standing in a whole different place. And I really did make peace with that moment. One of the lowest points in my life with one of the highest points in my life. And it just very much felt full circle. It was incredibly healing, and it was also nice to know that I was a healed version of myself now, helping others that maybe felt the same as I did all those years ago. So it was really nice. So going into that office, I just felt very light. That's the best way to describe it. I just felt a light feeling, a weight had been lifted off me that I didn't even know was there. And later on that day, because this actually happened the same day, like everything was quite quickly happening, where it was little synchronicities and signs. And I was told I was going to be going back to do a workshop at a hostel. So in the UK, a hostel is like where young people, in this particular case, young people were living in a semi-independent accommodation. So you do have key workers and people like that to help, but the young adults will be living independently. And a colleague that I was with said the name of the hostel, and I was like, oh my god, like that's a hostel I used to live in. I was 16 years old when I moved out, and I moved into that hostel. And I remember I wasn't really getting the help I needed. You know, a lot of the key workers and things promised stuff that they didn't really deliver, and they didn't really support you as much as, you know, as what we were doing now, which the things like the workshops that we were going back to do, those are the things that I would have needed in those days, you know, to kind of prevent me from doing certain things or from just being led astray or things like that. And now I was able to go back to that same hostel that I lived at and be like, you know, I was once here and here I am now, and, you know, you can improve your life by doing this, or you can get a sense of, let's help you get a sense of direction or things like that. Because a lot of the time, the kind of things that you get into as a teen can just stem from boredom, being with the wrong crowd, and then that goes left and you're heavily influenced. The universe to just be like, oh, by the way, you're going back to visit the place where you first moved out, and you know, you needed that help and support and you didn't have it, but now you're able to give it to these young adults. So these kind of moments were just like pretty cool, very healing, and just made me feel proud to be doing what I was doing. I felt like the overall kind of lesson of my full circle moments was kind of like, never forget where you came from, but never also forget how far you've come. And you need those little reminders sometimes, just to remind you, like, look how far you've come, like you've done this, you've shown up for yourself, you've put the energy and you've put the effort. It's not just by chance or miracle that you're here. And yes, you know, manifesting what you want and the universe putting you in position, but there's a part of you that has to show up for yourself as well. And it was a nice little reminder to how far I've come. A lot of us don't think about things like that, how far we've come. It takes a significant moment for us to be like, wow, like, you know, and naturally we're fighters, and we have to encourage ourselves and praise ourselves when, not just when we get these moments, but just to keep ourselves going. Just remind ourselves that you've come this far already. There's not been times where I have felt a little bit inadequate, and I do still sometimes get imposter syndrome where I'm at a big meeting and people are looking to me for answers. I'm like, me? You know, but and if you want me to make another video about imposter syndrome and how to remind yourself that you are adequate and you're exactly where you need to be, then you can say in the comments, let me know if you want to do that. But those moments, they do still happen, and it doesn't mean that it is because I'm inadequate. It's just because sometimes I have to pinch myself, because one minute you're in one position, the next minute you're in another, and because you're you don't even realize the amount of work that's gone into that sometimes. So let me know in the comments if you want to do a video about imposter syndrome, but I will not get into that now because the video is getting long enough. I really wanted to apologise as well, because I have been really unwell for the past over a week, and a lot of my clients and readings I've done and people I spoke to, they've been speaking about job and career changes and new jobs and things like that, and I really just wanted to get this video out because it just seems like a pressing matter that I've been hearing a lot from the people I've been speaking to professionally and personally. So this video is out, and if this is you, then if you are to do what I've just explained and creating your job role. I promise you it works. I've done it. I'm here to tell the. So anyway, my loves, my little mindset magicians, happy job hunting, and this is all 100% facts. It's all 100% true. This is the exact technique I use, so if you follow the same thing, there is no reason in hell why it should not work for you too. Happy job hunting, and I will speak to you guys soon. And remember, mindset matters, so let's create magic. Bye.